Hello everyone, my name is Mason and I'm going to be discussing the agenda setting theory and the spiral of silence theory. The agenda setting theory is one that basically states that the media sets the agenda, and this occurs commonly in society. Most people who talk about world news, it's all the same thing because all of the outlets, all of the media outlets are speaking on the same topics. And there's a lot of times when the media will focus on certain topics when other things are going on behind the scene. And because nobody is talking about those things that are going on behind the scenes, those things tend to be overlooked. I think the most recent example of this is the Jeffrey Epstein case. It seemed like initially, once the whole scandal broke out, there was a lot of coverage on the event. However, whenever he was incarcerated and then shortly thereafter, after he committed suicide apparently, they stopped covering this issue so much, and whenever this happened, it kind of took a back seat to these other things that the media started covering. They touched on it and then immediately moved on to something else so that everybody moves on and starts thinking about whatever else is going on in the world. So they set the agenda initially by covering the Epstein thing, but then after the fact, once they moved on from the Epstein case, after he committed suicide, there was no longer that same amount of coverage on the issue. The spiral theory is one that basically states people who do not hold the majority opinion, people who do not hold the majority opinion on a subject, they tend to remain silent or not to voice their opinion as much as those who are in favor of the opinion that is most favored by society. So the main thing that I think is happening in recent cases with this is the transgender movement. So the people who are not pro-LGBTQ do not speak out on instances like that. So when you have issues such as the daycares and these other people wanting to do away with he, she pronouns and have a more universal way of speaking to children, etc. The people who do not agree with this do not bring this subject up because the majority of people right now are on board with the LGBTQ community and their movement. And I also believe that this takes place in not as much of a modern example, but something that happened a little while ago was whenever the conspiracy theories became big. So people who were conspiracy theorists on certain topics like the World Trade Center, etc., everybody seemed to get on board with one specific aspect of that. So whenever they were around people who, for example, you're in a group of 4 or 5 people, and those other people were like, yeah, you know, jet fuel doesn't get hot enough to melt steel beams. They aren't as likely to voice their opinion that the World Trade Center was not an inside job, etc. So it all has to do with who surrounds you and what the surrounding opinion is, based on how vocal and how forthcoming with your opinion you will be. And I think this I think this theory is very interesting because I've noticed it a lot, especially in religious circles. If people are Christian, they wait for someone else to speak out about being Christian before they are forthcoming with that information. Otherwise, a lot of people will remain silent or keep that information to themselves until they realize they're in a circumstance or a situation where people are like-minded, and then they decide or feel comfortable being forthcoming with that information. I appreciate you guys listening, and I hope everybody has a good day. Thank you.